All right. So, guys, welcome. I'm going to get started in a few. Can you see my screen okay? My live screen share. All right, to go over a few things. Today's focus, I'll be doing a series of these all together. We'll start with a very simple basis of a volume profile and a little bit of footprint chart reading as well. And, of course, getting yourself set up to attack the day via trading plan before market open, etc. We'll start with the simple stuff today, going over volume by price or our volume chart. Let's go back and see here. Okay. So here we have our volume by price chart. Now I have this one set up a little different. As you notice, I have two types of volume profiles here, and this is indicated using the current month and previous month of volume traded. Now it's important to know that it automatically highlights the value areas highs, the POCs, and the value area lows of each day. So this is the hourly chart. So every day, I check the hourly. I see where volume is traded throughout the day, and this is solely independent on every day, right? So every day has a new volume profile, and we talk about these a lot during our trading session. In that we look for a few things. We look for consolidated POCs, so highlighted in yellow here, and every day we see that we have highlights of areas of control, points of areas of control, or point of control throughout every day. And we see that if buyers or sellers do step in this area, and you're probably wondering which what areas are more important for me to look at. Well, the most important part for me are low volume nodes, so the areas of particularly of little volume in between. Like today's session, we have some LVNs marked here, and usually I'll carry these forward because this is today's volume profile. All right, but let's say yesterday we had a series of low volume nodes. Let's say through here, right through here, and these are pockets. Right, these are pockets of areas where you want to start looking to get into some trades. Um, and obviously we didn't get into this area, but we had to have a low volume here that we could not really trade through from yesterday's value. So in my eyes, we did not trade through this low volume node from yesterday, which is why we often took shorts earlier in the day. But low volume nodes are important in that those are areas where a lot of traders haven't really gotten a chance to trade at. It's just low volume. Market likes to often retest those values and retest opportunities for us to trade. If you just carry them forward through every day, we can see that those are also opportunistic areas, like from here or up and through here. There's today's volume there. But generally, you want to carry these levels forward, and those are areas where you want to consider trading at. Another way you can trade them is through HVNs. So high volume nodes are areas of, unlike POC, they are not at POC levels, but they are definitely areas that are often traded through as well. And these HVNs, again, are also ways to trade. So if price cannot get through a high volume node, then look to consider breaking out through that area or continue the trend down. And these HVNs are often where bigger players like to hide their orders in, because these players will take large sizes in these areas, kind of hiding their orders in. But let's, for example, if you have trading in an area where it's low volume, you can actually trade them or look through them on the tape and see bigger traders and bigger orders stepping in. Hence, today you have bigger moves today, and on the tape you can definitely see lots of 200, 100 being shown on the tape, and you can follow them with your trades. If that makes sense. And I'll be also taking questions too on the Views discussion channel as well. Guys, any questions so far? Yes. So VKB low volume areas are the best entry points to look at. So I'll chart this up or clean this up for you. Let's get a better example. Do some low volume areas. Yeah. So if you were to trade through like today here, you can set that. But LVNs are better to trade at. You're going to have a better opportunity to find better entries. You're not so caught up in constant consolidation. If you're trading in a high volume node, most likely it's going to be a lot of chop, a lot of back and forth movement until it eventually does break out. Because there's such a high area of interest there, it's hard for a price to really just carry forward and carry through, if that makes sense. So when you're trying to take a trade, consider them going into the LVN areas or low volume areas where you can have a bigger move out of that area. And like I said, you want to, market likes to retest those areas to see if it's whether or not it's a true value area or it's a true area to trade in. It is not in a direction. Like we typically not to have such a directional bias through intraday. But for example, if we are migrating lower, like today, we did have other indicators that would tell us that we were definitely heading lower. So look at the day's mid, and I can go over that later as well. But the day's mid is also a point where you have more sellers or buyers stepping in. And if POC is migrating lower, so if POC, for example, is migrating lower, that means volume is also chasing that move lower. So you can see what direction the trade is over the day is going to taking shape if POC, or the point of control, is always migrating, plays it to the low side. Today's POC stayed here at 13.6 throughout the day, but then after that broke, you clearly saw the trend just change throughout the entire day, and it held that high volume. It traded that POC all the way through to the other side of value. And when we talk about the value area high and the value area low, it's important to understand that those are areas of where bigger time frame traders would often start taking their trades is against the value area high and low. And I say bigger traders. I mean, like people who usually wait for at least the first hour of open to see the market direction, and typically the value area high and low would set around those highs, like other value areas. Like today, value area high was like 760 today, and that was also around our range high as well, our 30-minute as well, 30-minute opening high, and our almost a high of the day as well. in the value area low, yeah, it definitely broke through all the IB today, and the value area low started to migrate lower. But typically, if we are trending lower, and value area low is broken for the day, and continue to gets broken and retested, and is most likely going to return back, or even continue the move down. Like today, we broke value area low several times. As you continue to make new lows, we retested those areas over and over and over again, and it completely broke through and held the entire day. Same can be said for value area high. If you break value area high from let's say the previous day, look for the continuation higher. Like if today, if we could not break yesterday's value area high, yesterday was what 14,108 yesterday. So if bulls really wanted to take advantage of this, then they need to break through that 100 110 to set the upside. And because we opened lower and we could not get over yesterday's POC, which was here, then you want to seek continuation lower as well. And we broke yesterday's value low. So that was also a dead giveaway on the move down today. So once you broke yesterday's val, continue taking short trades against that trend, and which was today was obviously seen 400 point down day was in the works. So if you're trying to set up for the day ahead, for example, it's really important to mark again the POCs and the POCs, the value highs and lows from previous days. If you want to get into like what's your game plan looking like or set up before the day starts, it's a good way to start. You can either do this on the hourly chart, you do 15 minutes if you wanted to. You can do this on the daily. I prefer the 1 hour for the volume by price chart. And like I said, before you start the day, it's important to see where these values are, to see if POC is migrating up higher each day, or is it POC migrating lower? Is it breaking through yesterday's value area low and high? And that should be setting up your bias throughout the day, if you will. But by no means we like to like guess direction. We only take the trade, or we take trades once value areas lows have been broken, or they're holding up from previous days, previous levels, for example. So if I were to come into today, obviously it's gonna be 16, 3600, 13600 is gonna be on my chart. Yesterday's POC, yesterday's value area high, and those are the huge range that it was given to us, and clearly those are levels are very important. So this will save a short bias because of that reason. If you were to take away today, take away this volume profile, um, and look into, let's say, yesterday, into what happened yesterday, um, I'll go into, what is this? Yeah, starting on the 20th, right there. So again, how important these values are. Once we broke value area low from previous days here, we can also see yesterday's also sell. Once the levels have been broken, easily can give us a dead giveaway as to where the market is headed. And we broke through POCs again, so POC, POC, value area high from the other day, and the value area high. I think it's resistance. So the break, you take the breakout or the break under, and even just from classic or traditional ticket analysis, it's definitely looking like a triple top or a double top, if you will. That's just from like a classical view or traditional view of looking at it. But using volume by price, using volume as an indicator, we did exactly what volume should be doing in terms of a lot of trades have been happening here, not many here, opened up lower, could not get it back above our area high, tried again the next day, failed to reach and get over the area high from its previous day, and continued to salt downward. And these are like just exhaustion of buyers over several attempts to get above um, previous day by area high. And you would take these with the stops, of course, but you wouldn't necessarily just take them on a whim. Um, there, yeah, let's say the by area high or that volume high volume shelf was an area to short as well. But yes, any questions so far on volume by price? I'll be getting to some order flow stuff here in a second. Okay, I get to you, Daniel. So Daniel, the high volume shelf or high volume node, this should get the peaks, right? You have peaks. Any high peak, not considered the POC, it would be your HVN or your shelf. Like today, this would be a high volume shelf. This entire area, correct? Yeah. So a shelf, HVN, futures term, definitely a high volume node. So looking at high volume, this is considered the node today, right? One node is there in this yellow highlight, and then this kind of encapsulating that as well from the previous day with also POC. This had a lot of volume trade in this area here. I'm just gonna refresh that real quick. Some data missing there, but yeah. So when you have overlapping high value areas or HVNs, this is like a big highlight here when it loads up. But that area was, the why you chopped so much in this area from the previous day as well. You open at the lows. You open at the lows, consider the chop until actually broke out, and that's why we stayed. In the morning, didn't really go anywhere after that initial sell. We were just trapped in this area, in a high volume area from yesterday. This high area POC. And then Dark Knight, yeah. So the right side of the profile, I have two color separating two different volume time frames. One is in this teal color. It's from current month, and then previous month in purple. So, for example, if I can just take this off, say let's say previous month. So right now, this is current month now. So this is all the volume that was traded for this current month. So you can use these areas as well as a reference moving forward onto the next month. That's where about TQ. Yep. So these are areas again. Like I do mark the higher time frames or the higher time frames. I do mark the VI area high, the POC, and the VAL for the current month and previous month. Also give you a better understanding of important levels for bulls or bears to take advantage of and take control over. Um, they might be long time in development, but they work really well towards the end of the month. So like it's if you do like the current month volume, um, you start it up the first day of the next month. It won't do anything, right? So you want to make sure that you have previous month and current month open or available, so that way you can have those areas to for referencing. If I did just the previous month, and you can mark that previous month be levels to work to look out for this month, essentially. What is a haters box? The haters box is what we coined here at Cosmic is major sell imbalances. Essentially, you have stacked sell imbalances not necessarily going to be so it would typically is coined as a stacked sell imbalance is all in the same candle. Yeah, you have multiple cells or on the ask side, say like highlighted here. You have areas or opportunity areas here that's called the haters box, where you have sell imbalances at resistance highs. And you can encapsulate that using a highlighter just like this. So you have haters 13,500, 13,485, again at 13,505. You can draw a box in the zone. That'd be the haters box. You could not find acceptance over this area over a span of three, I say three, like either three candles or three bars, and that'd be your haters box. All right. So I think we have a good understanding of how to set up for your day. Um, Typically loading and looking for your value areas and POCs. Now I want to get into a little bit of TPO as well. TPO is essentially it stands for time price opportunity, and the godfather of TPO, Jim Dalton, he uh, he claims that he just all he uses to trade is the TPO or a TPO chart. Basically, it's just a 30-minute chart, and dividing up your day into 30-minute sections. So when I say new period opening, that just means another 30-minute has opened. Next new 30-minute period has opened, and it goes that the entire day. And he says that market rotations often happen in 30-minute blocks. So usually we wait for the next 30-minute open to see open period of volatility and see if price turns or price continues in the direction of the trend. But here we can often look at our volume profile as well. So yeah, volume profile also marked on this chart, but on a standard chart, this is 30 minutes. Let me get that. I did 30 minute here, 30 hour. And it's also important to note that You can also mark value area highs, lows, and POC with the TPO. Just know that you will have differences in that sometimes in relation to your volume profile chart, which is on the hourly. You will have oftentimes different value areas in general, and reason being is that the TPO just looks at time as a especially time, how much time is spent in that area, and that's it. So the longer time spent in a certain area, you will have more TPOs in the area. Hence, you have that POC here. For example, we spent a lot of time, quotation mark time, in this area. So that doesn't necessarily mean volume. And I'm a big an advocate of volume just because that's how you trade, not via time, how much time I spent through that area, but I want to see the actual volume. That doesn't mean there's no value in it, because it definitely is. That's where we often look at something called like single prints, or often described as, you know, an area of which time has spent very little in and price has spent very little in. So did have single prints from yesterday that was actually left behind. Um, these are also marked as single prints here. So price did not spend a lot of time in this area and did not get revisited. We did have a single print here today as well. It's also indicated here. It automatically marks these single prints. So, for example, single prints also can be considered like low volume nodes, or LVNs, and they often match up. This is the volume profile for today, and you can see there's an LVN here. They're often very similar situationally, where the market wants to may often revisit these areas to see whether or not, again, it is of value. So if you do come back to test these single prints later on in the future, you can expect, some volatility. Either we take control of this area, or we do not find acceptance here again, and then we fall back through. So, for example, if we rally up and through like Sunday Globex, and we do touch like these single prints area, we will take that's an area where we want to take a look at to see any continuation lower. Same can be said if we look at very low from the TPO profile. This is Val from today. Again, automatically highlights this area. I'm going to highlight that. So we do find ourselves back in this area. We can look to take a trade up against this region here. Again, so these are all levels that you want to make sure. Oh yeah, these are levels that you want to mark, so you know where to trade and exactly take random trades throughout the day. You know what I mean? Like you're between zones. You want to make sure you're on the right side, or else you have a better grasp as to where to trade, instead of taking them in between candles, in between, like choppy areas. If you have these levels marked, you just wait for those opportunities to come to you, instead of you trying to guess direction. When it's like coming down, or if it's trying to make it move up, you're just guessing. You have to often wait for these opportunities to occur. And the same can be said for the volume profile as well. So, like yesterday, if you broke value area low from yesterday, that's where you want to know. That's where you want to take a trade, or start looking into getting into some trades because of the area. All right. Kind of go back into this box again. All right. So, and how important those levels are. Can I talk about ETH, RTH, and when you use either? So, volume is still considered volume. And if you're looking to volume profiles from overnight, is if there's a way for your program to separate them between just the overnight session and the in the RTH section, then those are definitely useful useful tools to have. Me personally, I just use RTH. Um, you probably would use the ETH when you're trading Globex, and then obviously just use RTH when you're trading RTH. So if you have this volume profile for the day, then that's what I would use. But I've seen a lot of traders who do take advantage of Globex profile by itself, and then carry that into RTH and just separate that. For me, just it's a lot of lines on a chart, so I like to just keep it a little bit simple. So as soon as RTH opens, that's when my volume profile starts to propagate. I'm gonna get into some footprint here in a bit. I can answer some questions you guys might have. Okay, how to set up TPO. So setting up TPO is pretty simple. Um, Based on your charting platform, we can go over that on the side. But the TPO, if you're using Ninja, Trade of It, or Quantower, the TPO is pretty standardized. So most platforms will, once you open TPO, it should automatically go into default, which is 30 minute, and then aggregate for the day. Yeah, on Trade of It, we can go over that later on. It's pretty simple. Yeah, it's a TPO box there as one of your chart options. Okay. Okay. So yeah, we will go over the footprint, which is my bread and butter for definitely trading. So lately, I've been using the footprint, and the footprint is basically what's actually happening within the candle, right? Separated by bids and asks, and we can. This is the hourly, so I do have the hourly footprint up today in the past couple of days. See bigger moves. So we have keep things simple. Left side, left side of the chart sells, right? Right side of the chart buys, right? So on this candlestick here, I mean, how would you really read them? Read them across, get the the nitty gritty of it all. You want to read there. These are 161 sellers to 222 buyers. Read it kind of diagonally. You want to consider how to read them, but to trade them, I would much rather have you guys focus on this horizontal, right, and looking at these imbalances. Imbalances are often highlighted for me. I put them in teal and red. So looking at this specific candle here on this hour, this last hourly bar, you have 536 sells against 31 buys. So these are, you should read them diagonally, right? But you can just simply see them or mark them as an area of resistance. Is you have these sellers, active sellers in this area, price came up to this area. You want to use that visually as a mark as to potentially take a short trade. And you might be wondering, what are these green highlights at the very top of and bottom of these candles? These are completed. I mean, so these are unfinished auctions or unfinished business, they call them, um, meaning there are still traders who are active in this area. There wasn't a a lack of bids or asks at this area, opposed to, let's say, the goose eggs on the bottom. These are a completed auction, so there's no interest in this level here at all, right? No one wanted to buy, or no one wanted to sell at this area here, big zero, right? Because if you're diagonal, there's nothing in this area. This marks as a zero, so there are no no more sellers, no resting orders. That's right, nothing here. So these are all completed orders. They're not. It's like the DOM where it's advertised prices. This actually happened, right? And so this, a big gold goose egg. There's no more sellers in this area, so that's why price, went up a little bit from that spot. Yes, they're kind of rare to find them, but you do find them. There's great areas of opportunity here. So we have another goose egg. Came up here right against this 13,674. Right up against this here as well. This is our big old goose egg again with the sell imbalance. Right up against the IB high. This was the trade of the day if you got it. Yeah. So I tell a lot of people like how to read this a little bit easier. And yes, this is as an hourly footprint, but if you're looking for the I guess the bigger move happening, I like to see that on the hourly. And then what I like to do is on my other of the screen is that I have something like this. I have it's like the 5 minute. So I can do like a 5 minute chart or a 5 minute footprint compared to the hourly. So I like to go hop over to each one. So if I see a buy imbalance or a sell imbalance at the high, so this is what 500, 13,500. You can scroll back and see it's exactly where the sell imbalance did happen. So same spot, this area here, 381. But the same thing on this side. So we had hourly sell imbalance at the very top. Shorter time frame, I like to see that as well. So we did have a stacked sell imbalance too. So you have one across this area. Candle came up to it again. This is where I hesitated at the end of the day. I did see this. I think this is where, yeah, this is on the salt up we broke out of. Thought we were going higher for a short cover. Immediately got stuffed. The 500. I did see the double buy imbalance or sell imbalance again. Same thing can be seen on the hourly, and we came up and we were shorted every time we got to this zone, this haters box, right? So we could put that in there, right? That spot, no one really enjoyed being in the time being. So that was an area where we could have shorted again, and yeah, that the short did happen. Targets, if you were short in this area, usually I like to target the next big buying balance. So that would be something previous buying balance would be around here, this zone. So another selling balance here. You could have taken profits in the next one here if you wanted, or until the next candle did show a buying balance, you could take a profit there. But ultimately, I mean, once you broke consolidation, and once you broke this general area like this, we just broke that even further. I think this was like the M low. So once we broke M low, M period low, we started just to have at it. So if you're trading just like if you're just trading 1 footprint chart, I recommend going to two. Have the bigger time frame or larger time frame. You can get a general idea of trend and where bigger players are actually checking their trades at. In hourly resistance, hourly support, and you see that on the footprint. Then you can see it on the small footprint as well. Like I say, on the 5 minute footprint. So you can see, that'd be a more of your entry chart or your entry chart. If yeah, entry footprint. I wouldn't take a trade off the hourly footprint. It just it was too slow for me, and you don't get that precise entry that you're looking for. Or you might just get a consolidation at the low, and meanwhile you have like these 5 minute bars that are developing, consolidating before your next move, up or down. So I wouldn't necessarily take the trade out the hourly footprint, but on the smaller time frame. Dark Knight, yeah. So these red boxes, this is a comes from this comes from Quant Towers Pirate Trades, and Bumble was the one who actually discovered this for us, and that so having this turned on with Quant Tower, it enables us to see and decide or highlight boxes where or areas where you have a pre pre-marked amount of volume, preset amount of volume, and have a 60% delta. So it needs to be a fast move. So it's a 2 second interval. It needs to be quick and fast and with a lot of volume. So 450 trades. And delta has to be swayed to one area. So this is 60%. More than half of of that delta is either long bias or short bias. So these delta bars, for example, here, always highlighted, it'll automatically highlight these delta areas. So here we had 473 plays in volume, and yet 61% in delta. So this is like a positive delta on 473 trades. Now you can either take longs or shorts of the area. Just for me, another area of reference. So if you broke below or broke above that box, then you might consider taking a long trade or a short trade. But that will show you there's deltas leading towards the downside because it is negative or positive delta. Means a lot of buyers are probably getting out in the general area. A lot of buyers trying to get out of the zone. Not positive delta. It's positive delta, not diagonal. But yeah, so this is positive delta, indicative of possibly buyers trying to take advantage or sellers getting out, trying to cover. So this for me is another area of reference to potentially take a trade from. And the yellow boxes are just manually operated in hand drawn box. Um, but even these yellow boxes here, it's just the POC of each candle. So the point of control for each of these hourly bars that have formed. So the POC of this candle, POC of this candle, POC, and we're just migrating POCs all the way down today. Right, the whole day, right from the open, migrating down each every time. So that kind of gives you a directional bias as well every hour. Yes, sale bounds are automatically highlighted. Most trading platforms will have an automated system where you can identify your any kind of preset imbalance ratio that you might want to have. I know Tradeovit does the same thing. It's not as crisp as let's say NinjaTrader or even Quantower or Sierra Chart or either other platform. They're not really good with order flow tools, but uh, this is for Quantower at least. You can definitely separate even by color, like how strong this is. So this is like 600%, 500%, and 300% of imbalance. So mine just all red for just know that there's all those the selling. You can change them on based on intensity if you wanted to. For me, I just gonna keep them all one color, but I have 300, 500%, and then 600. So as the day develops, you will get these sell imbalances and buy imbalances that develop throughout the course of the candle. It happens, over and over and over again. It doesn't mean you take every single sell imbalance that you see or buy imbalance that you see, because the drops in days doesn't make it really important. That there are some days where you're just trending up, and then you do see sell imbalances at the highs, and you just get railroaded, if you will. You've seen time and time again. Those are your setups, though. If you see your setup, you have a sell imbalances. You take them with stops, of course, and if buyers take control of the sell imbalances, then what can you do? You have stops in place for a reason. But identifying what your setups are with the footprint. For me, my setup would be up against a level. So a good setup today would be up against a pre-marked area. We have this pre-marked SDP here, so 13554. I saw a double sell imbalance. So a double would mean, or stack sell imbalance would mean at least one candle, two candles, three candles in the same zone, same region of sellers or buyers. In this case, we have a stack sell imbalance. You have two sets of sells, um, indicating that probably the sell is not over. So getting into a previous marked area, into a known area, you can take advantage of that sell imbalance and take a short up against level and up against the other sellers in this area. Same can be said for buy imbalances. Um, might have taken a trade, let's say buy imbalances here, but there's other reason why it gets supported. Like we did see some heavy buying at the bottom, trying to save it for the day around 490. Also, we couldn't get through it. I want to see the next hour probably opening up another buy imbalance here to take a long opportunity, but we did not see that. We saw a sell imbalance instead. and then the continue to salt down afterwards. But if I were to take a trade, I would always have at least a stacked sell imbalance against it, not just a solo one. It's hard to see that. Like you have this singular sell imbalance hanging at the high, and then the next candle opens up, and you don't have any volume or any kind of other indication that it could get sold off again. I want to take it solo, just a reference. I want to see at least a couple stacks or at least 1 to 2 candles that are in my favor for the sell or the buy. But this was a hard one up here at the high. Any questions regarding the footprint? Kind of confusing at first, um, but once you guys have it set up, I think it'd be easy to understand. Delta percent. So the deltas for me, it's gonna be very misleading. It isn't gonna paint you the full picture. It for me, for example, if I were to have if you look at these deltas percentages here, just solely look on deltas, you would think you're going up a bit higher on this candle, looking for continuation. But percentages to me are just from bar to bar, not enough information for me. Like I don't take into consideration delta percent from bar to bar rather than drawing my levels for the delta pivots. I think it's a better read if you're looking at, let's say, a small time frame, like a 5 minute. So you have like a 5 minute footprint. You can go to that real quick. Hopefully this thing loads. So yeah, so here's a 5 minute footprint instead. Instead of the hourly. So you have strong delta percent or strong delta buying in this candle indicating to go long. If you see delta starting to get lower, of course the delta doesn't really highlight until the end of the candle. So it's hard to take a trade just based on candles alone. You might get caught up in the next short. You saw negative delta 10%. You go, oh man, sellers are coming in. This kind of opens, you're screwed. What happened to your delta? You're trying to short this hole. You're trying to short this. You're thinking, oh yeah, negative 10% delta. That's a lot of selling. And you're trying to short the hole, and right. I mean, this this neg delta, it could have been printed at the low. It could have been printed at the high. So while it's forming, it doesn't tell you the clear indication until after it prints. So it's hard to tell. That is calculated from the ratio between buyers and sellers. Volume traded. Yeah. level has 10 buyers, 5 sellers. Plus side delta, correct. And Dark Knight, had a question about your how do you point out TPOC or VPOC? I'll get back to that in a minute. I think if we're looking just to how to trade delta in general, it's to see whether I care about delta if you're pushing up on negative delta or pushing down on positive delta. So if you are looking at taking a trade and say we were pushing up on, let's say, negative delta, let's say you're pushing up, getting higher, negative delta. So this entire move up was on negative delta, for example. It's all pushing, it's all negative. So it means probably a lot of interest of selling is occurring here. So yes, you're pushing up, but there's more aggression to the sell side. So if you're pushing up on negative delta, you can consider taking shorts as soon as you see a sell imbalance or some type of other indicator. You could be using stochastic slow, ADX, whatever it may be. You could use a traditional overhead resistance level coming into that area, and you saw negative delta coming into that level, or price coming into that level, and it's negative delta pushing higher. You can consider short. Same thing can be said on the way down. If you're pushing down on positive delta, you have most likely going to be either buyer absorption or your seller absorption. Sellers are coming down. The sellers are bringing it down, but there is a large number of buyers coming into the market, absorbing all those sellers, and the market can definitely reverse uh, in that area. Now, it doesn't mean that if you get absorption one way or the other, that means it's just going to flip, because the same way can happen if you see selling absorption, coming down, and then you see there's a lot of positive delta coming up. The buyers could also get tired as well. Like if they're done absorbing all the sellers, what happens to the buyers? They get tired and come right back down. So, take for example, if you have it's coming up here, sellers are getting absorbed in this area. See, probably delta's probably neutral at this point. Probably it comes back up, and then sellers, or buyers, got done absorbing all the sellers and starts to set back in. It's really hard to find out. You're just looking at delta alone when that actually happens, when that flip actually happens. Yeah, so if you're looking at volume profile and the way it's shaped, you're basically trading areas of higher volume, like in your chart that you have up right now. I can bring that up. Right. So if you have this, for example, it's a B profile. You have your D here, P, BBD. So consolidation or distribution. Lower B profiles, you have bottom distribution at this area. Potential longs up against areas of higher volume. Higher P shape would mean short cover rally. from the recent buy T-shape is consolidation of the highs. Look to consider taking long breakouts or consider taking shorts up against a known level, previous resistance, or taking under a sell imbalance. But usually the profiles for me are not. They're more for area trading. If you're zone trading, that works really well. Um, if that makes sense. If you're just trying to take, they're similar as to taking trades off of area low or POC because they're areas of reference for volume. I personally don't trade the P profile or the B profile shapes in my candles at all. I just trade the POCs. Yeah. So I mean, I don't go with that today and just like, oh, that's a B profile, and then that's a C, that's a D, that's a B. I'm looking at just straight POCs. Like, what where are the POCs at, right? So that I'm not so confused as to like, oh, what profile shape that is. Like I'm looking like, oh, that's a P profile, that's a D. Like look, if you're looking to take like POC breakout trades or POC consolidation breakout trades, that'd be more up my alley. It's easier to look at visually. So if I see like POC consolidation, this is a very wide POC, about 50 points of the spread. So like once you broke POCs, right? Once you broke those levels of areas of reference, that's pre-market. Here's the open, the first hour open. We could not find acceptance over this, the first hourly bar. And then as you start to migrate lower, I mean, all the POCs are just shifting lower. And it's all yellow candles, right? So this is just short every pop today. It's easier said than done. Like if you look at POCs, like you should get an understanding of like it's already been a down day or trending lower. You want to see the price continuing. You look at overall POCs for the day and see where the volume is being chased to the downside. So as soon as they open, POC there, POC here, shifted lower again, shifted lower, shifted lower. Yeah, this is definitely a clear indication of an example for sure. But I'm digging the hourly footprint quite a bit. You can see it makes you a little more patient as to work to take a trade, and then using the smaller footprint, looking for your entry candle, then that'd be the one to use. Now, in terms of getting my SDP levels or session delta pivots, I will go over that now. This bad boy loads up. So I do grab my delta pivots from the 15-minute footprint. So this 15-minute footprint chart, I had to carry over from the previous day. So yesterday, TH, 6 p.m., 10 p.m. All right. There's a lot here. One sec. All right. So yesterday, how to get my levels from today, or for today, from yesterday would be looking at the 15-minute footprint, and I'm noticing a few things. I'm looking at the delta percentage, and then the number of volume in that bar. So I look for the highest delta percent of this within a 15-minute candle, and I take into consideration the volume traded as well. So I want 5,000, at least 5,000 trades, and I just locate the um, highest delta bar. So this being the 7.1, and I tend to not to take the highest delta bar before like 10 a.m. PST. I take it towards the end of the day, let the whole day more develop. So I'm looking at this bar, 7.1. Opposed to the other ones are not nowhere near as high. This does have really good volume, 18,000. And then this one as well, 23,000 against the 6.49. And I think I chose this candle here because it did have a sell imbalance, rather stacked one as well. And it had a little more volume compared to the 18,000. So I'm like, hey, 0.5 isn't much of a difference. I take the high and low of that candle, mark that, and there you go. That's my that's a pivot. Yep, mashed it a T there. So this is obviously today, and then moving on for today. So the delta pivot would be the 50% from that candle that I chose. So if a bull or bear underneath, can I get above? Indicating low as well. So this is was not breached with confidence today. It's a 760 area. And this is today. Can I get back above 760? With a little bit of confidence, not at all. Got close to the 795. And if wondering what I use for that percentages, I'll just bring that up for you guys. All right, if you want to screenshot that, go ahead. So these are percentages I use for the delta pivots. Now sometimes these areas. So sometimes I do take SDPs prior to market open. Let's say we did have a big news event, for example, and before the open, we had a surge of volume, at least 5,000 trades. Something to note. So this at open, so anything before open. Usually, if it's anything more than 5,000 trades, this one's pretty decent right here. So there's like the 5.1 compared to 8.73% of delta. This is before the open at 515. We could have taken this as a developing pivot here. Had more than 5K trades. Take the high to low of that candle, and that could be your developing SDP and almost in line with where the one we had from overnight, that 760 area. And you could have carried that out throughout the entire day. Of course, the levels from the previous day hold more true, is that, this was taken from market generated information that happened already occurred. If you took this candle here, it's kind of too late in the session or too early in the session to really use that to carry it forward. But definitely use it as confluence as well. But clearly, it's not as strong. I guess I have any questions too. Any? We can go through the DOM. Although my DOM is kind of messed up right now, and it's not live. You guys are welcome. And we'll do these a little more often as well. I plan to do at least like maybe like a Globex reviews. Have some like daily plans that are more easier to read, or we can go through like Globex plans, same way as you're doing now, or make some videos on what I'm looking for the day, kind of post that up. You guys can view it as well. But I do want to do more workshops, especially like maybe live ones too, when days are slow. But we shall see. Of course. If you have any more questions, I'll be turning the stream off in a minute. All right, that's it. All right, guys. Have a good one. Have a good weekend. See y'all later.